Hi, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are doing our first ever Brown Girl Breakdown. Sharif and I have been on Podquester Mini a couple of times for our own wins or for commentary on other wins, and then World of Warcraft Winners at War. We were also on here, and we had so many positive comments that Sharif and I were able to come together and say, we really want to be a bigger part of this community because we think that we have unique points of view. She's a gamer. I come from like a screen cultures background. And we are also women of color, and that's not often seen in this world. So what we'd like to do is kind of start a conversation about what it's like to be marginalized. And we also wanted to have conversations just about strategy and game, etc. So we met with Louie and TR, and before we even said anything, they were like, we have a place for you. We would actually love that. So big ups to them for already being on the ball and creating this space. And we knew we were going to have special episodes about race, gender, sexuality, etc. in reality TV. This one's a little impromptu, but I think it's the best way to get your feet wet. Jump right in. Sharifa, I think you want to speak a little bit before we brought in our guests.
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot. One thing that Suzi and I were really passionate about doing was providing a space for women of color to talk about gaming, and not just because we are marginalized and that's something to highlight, but because we haven't been given space to have those sorts of dialogues, to be able to analyze gameplay. We can be gamers too. I like to think I'm a gamer. And we were given so graciously space by TR and Louie to come onto their podcast, and they have been so warm and accepting of us, of being able to expand upon what it means to be a gamer, how to contribute strategy, but also to look at game in a way that analyzes, one, what it means to be a marginalized person, and two, systemic structures that prevent marginalized players from being on a level playing field. Our original debut for Brown Girl Breakdown was going to be the segment of looking at all the things I just talked about within reality television, competitive reality television. This is a very impromptu moment, but we felt it was important to have a dialogue, to be able to talk about these things. I want to make it really clear that the intention of this podcast is not to incite drama. It is not to continue focusing on traumatizing moments, but instead to address what happened and to move forward as a community, and for everyone to leave this space more educated than they did coming in. And we're really grateful to have you all here and to be a part of that with us. And we're really excited to get this rolling. I had this whole little intro about Brown Girl Breakdown, about how we look at things unapologetically, but we'll say that one for the next one.
Yeah. Did you want to say something about your tweets before we bring
I do. Thank you. Yes, for reminding me. So I took down the tweet that I put out that was getting a lot of retweets and likes. I ended up taking that tweet down, not because I don't believe in the message. I do passionately, but because it was being linked to Sequester, the org in itself, where this mini is not a reflection of Sequester. It is simply a private mini that people were organizing. It had nothing to do with Audrey, nothing to do with organization. So I retweeted, and you can go and check that out. A statement that I made, making sure that distinction is clear, that is not a reflection of Sequester. Sequester has done such a wonderful job of providing an inclusive space, a diverse space for people like me, for people like Suzi, for so many others to be able to play the game and be winners. The org in itself is an incredible org, and we always want to make sure when we're having these conversations that we're addressing that, and that the repercussions of this mini is not reflective of the greater org in itself. So you can go check out my statement on Twitter. And yeah, I think that's it. Susie, anything else before we get started?
No, I just want to say, we're a community, and we're going to keep growing. And also, I'm wearing my headphones weird because I have an earache. So just accept me.
I didn't even notice. I always will.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to bring in our first guests, which are Dena. You saw her play the other night. Was that yesterday? That was more than one night ago, right?
That was Sunday.
Sunday. Time is passing weird, both in the quarantine and sequester. Ivan, also a member of our international community. What's up? And then Lee, who disappeared for a moment, so I was like, what? And then Lee, who is the organizer of the mini in question and a longtime sequester community member. So as you both are as well, I remember, Ivan, your first game. I was very excited to see a Latina dad. Rep.
Yes.
So, I want to start out by talking a little bit to Lee about where your idea for the private mini came from, because I think everyone, the moment Audrey said private mini, we were like, we want to do it. So I think that everybody is eager to start their own private minis. So the themes are cool. The idea that you can bring your own twist is really cool. And then, so how did you choose your date? How did you choose your theme? And how did you choose your cast?
Yeah, so thank you for having me, first of all. I know that this is probably taking some time away from some important concepts that you probably would have liked for your first episode. So I'm sorry, but I appreciate.
We like to roll with the punches here.
So I will just kind of back up. It was a couple of weeks ago, and I had gotten together, and I think part of it was that I had applied for a couple of private minis, and I hadn't really gotten to play in any of them. So I really just wanted to organize one of my own. So I had pulled Neiko into the fold of that. We had played in 2 minis together, so we had really developed a friendship. And I just said, let's pull together a mini of some of the friends that we've made in the minis that we've played in. And I said, if we can pull in some extra other people, that's fine. So one thing just kind of led to another. And
there was some talk about it being your birthday.
So that's a little bit of a misconception there. So,
okay.
So what happened was there was someone who was playing in the mini whose birthday was recently, and I had said that I wanted to throw it as partly for their birthday because I wanted to really introduce them to the sequester community. They were new, they hadn't played in anything lately, and I know I had seen some of the comments that had been said outside of some things that I was a part of, and so I probably should go on the record and say that was not for my birthday. My birthday is not for 5 months, so I just don't want it to be seen under some false veil of something that it wasn't.
Okay, so it was just a regular mini for fun, and you were like, these are people I know and I want to bring on, and that's how the cast kind of developed. You in conjunction with Neiko, who will be joining us in just a second. So that since y'all kind of conceived this together. And then from there, can you talk a little bit about how Cliff and Jesse joined? Were those just 2 people that you happen to know?
So, well, and I don't want to speak for Neiko either, so I will kind of let him say his piece on a couple of things too. But when we brought in the people, we were trying to talk about who we wanted, and I said, I want this to be kind of as fair as possible for people that we bring in. Like, I don't want to bring in people that aren't connected or don't know people in the group, and therefore are just going to get targeted very early because they don't know anyone, whereas we were trying to bring in people that we had played in minis with previously. So the people that were included in the group were people that we had played in minis with previously. Admittedly, I have not played in minis in the past that have been very diverse. And so really, other than just being able to interact on Twitter or anything like that, I would say that my interactions have been limited, and I am probably at fault for not making more connections to try and involve some people. I think that partly, and I'll get back to your other question here in just a minute, is I didn't want to just reach out to someone because of that and then say also, that because they may not be connected to other people in the group, have them be voted out early and put that sort of image that would be unwelcoming and say like, hey, we're just going to cast a few people that can be some first boots for our group. How Jesse and Cliff kind of came into the mix was I've been kind of around the reality circuit a few times and been to several events that I've just been lucky to go to. So I've become friends with Jesse Larson over time. Christine Varner, who I had gotten into the group, I had become friends with her.
Oh, I didn't even realize that was for her. I just saw this comment and I was like, what? But okay, yeah, that's her. Her picture looks very different.
So so that was part of the I would say at least the strategy in bringing in some of those extra people was it was like, how cool would it be if we could bring in some like extra hyped up people? And that's kind of where this idea of the VIP theme came from. Not to jump too far ahead, but when I had first decided on like the VIP night theme, it wasn't necessarily, and this is my own fault for not communicating it well, but it wasn't necessarily to say this is a full group of VIPs. I don't consider myself a VIP. I'm a flop and sequester and always have been. But I wanted to center it on the special people that had kind of agreed to play and were really pumped about doing some fundraising for us. And part of that was I didn't think that we needed to have a pervasive theme with the cast that we had. I'm not really that creative anyway. So I just wanted to do something. And basically, it was going to loop into the first round twist that I was pitching that we would do for the cast, or at least for the quote unquote VIPs that were on the cast. So that was probably just, I'd take full responsibility for all of that. The naming was poor, but I couldn't come up with anything else, and I didn't really want a pervasive theme in it. So that is kind of how the cast came about. Now I know that some questions had come up, and I can only address them saying that in terms of some of the more VIP people, when you're thinking about like Big Brother players, Survivor players, I have a small Rolodex of people who, I'm connected to, and I don't really feel comfortable reaching out to like reality stars that I haven't met or had conversations with previously, because I think that probably they're not going to be received or seen, and B, I just don't know. I don't know what's going to come out of that. So I had reached out to a few people like, and I don't want to name drop them in here, but I will just say I reached out to I spread a more diverse net of people. And I had some initial interest in people that just could not commit. So that was kind of how we landed on the cast. And then as we were running out of time to submit the final details, I just said, here.
Okay, so you set up the final details before you cast it, like as far as like the date and stuff like that. Is that how it works?
Yes. Yeah. The date was already set in stone. The whole idea of like the VIP theme was just like, what can we stick on this to say like we have a name for this mini, because we knew that like another mini was coming forward, 2 minis came forward that had like a name. I didn't have a good idea for a name.
Neiko, can you try to speak now?
Yeah, is it good?
Okay, yay, we can hear you. We can hear you. Great.
Literally, I was like, I couldn't even hear y'all.
Having some technical problems. So yeah. He's back though and fully. So Lee was saying that y'all kind of tried to plan this together and that you cast your nets a little bit far and wide, and that this is what you ended up coming up with, and that the name was more of a reflection of the 3 people who are Big Brother stars than it was supposed to be about the whole situation. Yeah. So at that point, was the cast in on that conversation? Because there were some like questions about whether or not the cast knew the name or knew. I had
a few people reach out and just ask, "Are we doing a theme?" And I just said, "We're calling it VIP night." But it was one of those things where it was just kind of like it was to name it rather than to have some big theme, because I wasn't going to have us dress up for anything for that specifically. I would say that was an oversight on my part, not running that by the group. But again, I just threw it together kind of quickly, and it's what I came up with.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead, Sharifa. You're muted.
You're muted.
You are talking
I'm trying to be responsible and everything. I do want to jump in here as we talk about sort of like its conception. I think that there should be some focus here. When you say that you reached out to a diverse community, but you did not receive anyone coming back into that, here's sort of like my blanket statement on private minis. I think they're absolutely at your discretion to cast how you want to cast. I think what happened here is when you open up a private mini publicly, that then there needs to be some atonement into what is the world that I'm creating by doing that. And when you say that you reach out to a diverse cast and that was not what you ended up with, I think where there's some concerns with that statement is that there's been a lot of information out there that wasn't the case, that there were a couple people who contacted who were more bigger names that probably wouldn't have been able to take part, and that there wasn't really a focus on creating a diverse cast if the goal was to make it something that's public and not private.
Well, and I can say that the original intent was not to make it public. It really wasn't until we got some of the bigger names that we thought, it would be fun to share it out with other people. And it wasn't just that I was sending DMs out to, when I say that I was spreading that blanket, it wasn't that I was just not getting replies. I was having back and forth conversation, and some of these people were really interested, but they just couldn't end up making the dates work for them.
Dang it! I keep showing the wrong stuff. I promise. I'm not trying to call myself amazing. There we go. This is the comment. I'm new at this. So I think this is an interesting idea of thinking of it more as a game night and less of a public event, right? And when it comes to all private minis. And that certainly could have been the case, but like Lee said, once you start casting public figures, people want to make it more public, right?
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, Lee, you're so good. It's from what I'm understanding, what you're saying, Lee, it's not that the fact that you had more prestigious players coming in and that's what made it public. You made an active decision to make it public. There was a graphic posted.
We made an active decision to make it public. Yes.
Because you could have continued it private. Absolutely. Even with the prestigious
absolutely.
Ooh,
absolutely.
My list came through there.
So basically what went into that decision is that we had a couple of those, or one or two of those people that were in that quote unquote VIP category, ask if they could share it out with their followers and get people to watch it. And of course, we know that from the private mini setup that you can do that even though you get the private link, you can share it out. And so I think that, and I own this decision as well, that I said, well, if that's the case, like, we might as well share it in the sequester group. Like, if that person's going to share it, like, we might as well share it there as well. I think that just combined with, I had seen kind of like an example of two of the private minis being shared publicly. And so I just thought, this seems like an acceptable thing to do, without really thinking too much of the ramifications or what went into our quote unquote casting or group of friends that were playing. So I can't say that there was a lot of intentionality that went into there in terms of like what I was thinking, but just more kind of seeing a place where I thought that I should do that. And so I did, and didn't think too much before doing so.
Yeah, I've been having this conversation. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Suzi.
No, go ahead.
I've been having this conversation, and I talked about this on Twitter as well. The difference between intention and impact, and I think intentions in this situation were certainly not intended to have the impact that they had. And I do really appreciate y'all coming on here and talking about it and engaging in that dialogue. But I do want to make sure that everything that you need to be held accountable to will be held accountable to, and as respectful way as possible. I do want to give Dena and Ivan an opportunity to speak just on sort of the inception of the mini, just from what they understand, because I do feel like it's important to address that, because negative intention breeds negative intention. And if we want to move forward as a community and as a positive community, a community that stands together and not apart, it's important to take atonement for all of our actions and not just what is the most visible. So Dena and Ivan, I want to sort of like give y'all the platform to speak to your knowledge about the situation, especially for someone who couldn't be here tonight.
Well, if I may speak broadly, but with enough direction that I'm clear about what I say, and I apologize. My parents have told me I should always do this. I'm an attorney by training and by birth. So I apologize if some of my language is a bit more direct and blunt than it would be had I not have my educational superpowers. Very directly speaking on intention, as we set into this new frontier of casting for ourselves and of developing differences in our community by which we are leaders and not just looking to Audrey for leadership, I think that we need to understand that we are making conscious decisions and that we are allowed to make those decisions based on what we choose and the people we choose to relate to. And those decisions should not be utilized by others as a means of bullying or as a means of chastising or as a means of having someone feel less than. Because we are all here simply for the purpose of enjoying each other's company, of dragging each other when necessary, and of having a good fucking time. And today has been a personally painful experience because I did not join this community to watch someone be hurt and to watch others be hurt. And while there might have been a misintention of hurting a community, there was intention of hurting a person. And when you intend to hurt a person, that's unacceptable to me. And so for me, you know, I hope that this mini goes off excellent. I think it's a great group of people. I think that, you know, I will speak only to the jury at International Mini. Every single person before me decided to say Black Lives Matters at the end of their questions. That's their personal choice. I chose not to do that. That's not because I don't believe Black Lives Matter, just because that was not what was right for me in that moment. And so I hope that we can all pause and think about what is right for us in this moment and to not simply attach ourselves to what is available to us in order to relate without really knowledge of what it takes to be a part of a community. And I hope that this is an incredible learning experience by which we can all have a more fruitful sequester. I really consider sequester, and I've said this to my international league players when I was pre-gaming with them, I consider sequester at this point league play. We are all in a league together. These private minis are where we hone our skills so that we can understand who we are as people, and so we can be loyal to each other when we won't pre-game ever, right? This is league play. You are showing the entire community who you are, and you are telling them who you want to be a part of your smaller circles. And so I just encourage everyone to be understanding of the fact that Audrey, by virtue of her only having so many little bubbles to put us in, can only cast 20 people. I have been unbelievably fucking blessed to be cast in both the International Mini, where I was the only woman, and this incredible prom mini, where I was the last person brought in. And God damn it, if I am not the most thankful person in that room, right? And so I hope that we can continue to create incredible blessings for all of us as a community, and we can champion each other. And I promise you, every single time one person in this community feels bad, you will hear from me, because that's not fucking okay. So I hope that that's kind of cleared up where I'm about. I hope that the people who want to be a part of my community can continue to share in my sequester journey. And in every league, there's certain people that don't play with each other. We don't all have to be in the same sandbox. And if you don't want to play in my sandbox, that's super cool. I wish you the best of luck. That's just how it is. So I literally didn't want to come on here tonight. I'm playing BBH homegrown or hometowns, whatever Josh called it. I'm like playing prom tomorrow. My boyfriend might be leaving me. Like, but I had to be here because it was important for me. And I understood that I was uniquely capable of being on a Brown Girls podcast and delivering this message. I hope it was heard. I hope it was heard very clearly. And I hope I don't have to fucking repeat myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dena. Really appreciate that. Ivan, is there anything you want to say before we move forward from this part of the?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm bitching right now. You can tell me if I am. But I just have a question. I mean, you said that, Lee. You said that you know, the past minis that you've played, you haven't played with much diversity. So I don't know. Wouldn't this have been just a beautiful opportunity to include those people? I mean, like, you can just name 30 plus people, diverse people that have played in the past minis that are people of color. And I just don't, I don't know, just coming from that place, I just don't understand why this opportunity wasn't taken.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question. I will say, I'll try and answer that with kind of two sides of this, and then please cut me off if I'm taking too long to answer this question. I will start off by saying, yes, Ivan, I do agree with you there. And one of the things that's kind of outside of the sequester community is that I do run a survivor org outside of this. And one of the things that I really wanted to be intentional by doing, by watching the international one, is that I said to my group of people, I said I really wanted to be intentional in casting a more diverse net. I had reached out to a lot of the people that played in the international mini, you know, and Dena included, because I was really inspired by watching people like Dena play. The issue in bringing more people into this one was I knew in order to bring in any more people that I would have to kick someone out, and I didn't feel comfortable doing that after having kind of had that experience myself. And saying, you know, I don't want you to play now because I found someone that is more important. And I think the other point of that is, you know, I certainly should have made those steps to interact more with people that were more diverse in the sequester community. But I felt like asking someone, and this is my own ignorance here, because I didn't allow the person to say what they were feeling, but I felt like it was almost going to be patronizing to just have them fill or check a box to come and be in my mini when they weren't going to be very connected to other people inside of the mini. And I didn't want something to happen where, you know, they may not have a good or long experience in the game because they didn't have the connections that everyone else in the mini had to one another. And so that was just my perception of those things and kind of what made me stray away from asking some people that I didn't know necessarily.
But Lee, I don't think that you can say that in the same breath and then do the actions that you did, because that requires so much thought and introspection. And if you had utilized that same thought and introspection about the decisions that were being made, especially the one to make it public, then we wouldn't be here. And I have to question if you had that relationship with everyone in your mini. And here's my thing. I just want to make this as clear as I possibly can. If you're organizing a private mini, that is between you and God. You get to make that cast look however you want it to look. But the second that you made that public, the second that you opened it up, and then we still haven't gotten to this yet, and you attached everything that you did to it, you know, that breaks down the damn walls. And the fact that you're saying you didn't reach out to one, you shouldn't have to reach out to marginalized players just because they're marginalized. There's incredible players that are POC, that are marginalized. You have 4 right here. And, you know, I just have to challenge you there, because I don't know how much I believe in that statement, considering all the actions that happened afterwards.
Yeah, no, and I
as respectful as I can.
Go ahead.
Sorry, if I could just say one thing, and then if you guys don't mind, if I can head out, I would love to do so. But
absolutely, Dena.
I just want to take a moment to say that this is the most diverse community that I've personally ever been a part of. And that's something that I've struggled with my entire life. You know, I was born in Egypt. I was raised in New Jersey. I never was part of a community that understood me. I was always a little bit different than every group I was in. I went to law school in Atlanta. Try to fit in Atlanta, y'all. Like, I am not Black, I am not white, and I am definitely not Arab enough for the Atlanta Arabs. So this was the first community where all of a sudden it didn't fucking matter because I was Dena and I saw people of all shapes and sizes, of all backgrounds. Every single mini I have ever seen has been extremely diverse. And that is incredible credit to Audrey's vision for this type of a community and for the types of people that she continues to champion and put out there over and over and over. And the pool is growing and the pool is getting more and more incredible. And I just hope that everybody knows that put yourself out there. This is a lot of fun. Even the bad days are great days, right? Like, you will have more friends. You will have supportive friends. You will have all different types of people of all shapes and sizes ready to be your partner in life. And in these incredibly difficult times, as all of us are facing all manner of condition and of all manner of condition and all consequence of physical, family, mental, racial barriers, I just am so proud to be a part of this community and to call so many of you my friends. And I hope that after this, we can all continue to be friends and we can keep growing from this, because it's these conversations that make us better people. And when we don't have these conversations, we just become the robots that they want us to be. So it was really hard for me to be here. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of all of you guys for having this combo. And I hope that we can just go back to having fun, keep discussing all the important stuff that you guys need to discuss after that. I'm really in support of all the impact and passion that we do. I have personally done more for the movement outside of my legal work and outside of the professional stuff on a personal level since I joined this community, and I'm honored to be here. And so I just want to thank all of you, and I hope that I win tomorrow.
Oh, Suzi, you're on mute.
Dena, before you go, I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to make you a banner. I'm new at this, y'all.
You're doing amazing.
Hey, that's all. You don't need to, because that's already my banner.
Okay,
everything
perfect.
is
So y'all catch Dena on Twitter and support her in the mini tomorrow. I'm super excited. Yay. Sharifa and I will be doing some live commentary. So we're rooting for you, girl. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Dena,
I love my brown girls, and I love all of you.
Thanks, Dena.
Oh, Sharifa.
This will not be the last time we see you on Brown Girl Breakdown. Oh,
yeah.
Did I robot? Great. Hi, bye, Dena.
Okay, I'm going to add Josh to the stream. I don't want to keep Lee here too long for a couple of reasons. Like he said, I do want to focus a little bit more on how people of color are feeling. And I also want to not make this feel like a cross-examination situation, because that's not what we're here for. I think we have a lot of things to say whether or not Lee is in the room. So I think that's what I really want to focus on. I'm glad that we're asking him questions so that we can get to his intent and also have some like conversation about intent versus impact. Sure.
And I want to provide,
but I don't want to keep him here too much longer. Sharifa and Lee.
I do want to provide clarity as to why I'm asking the questions that I am being direct in the way that I am, is that I don't feel that we can truly move forward from this space unless we truly acknowledge our actions and our behavior. I think it's very easy to, when something negative happens, to want to move past it. But I truly believe that that resolution is not a result of peace. Resolution is a result of conflict, and peace is a result of resolution. And so I am going to ask these uncomfortable questions, but I do want to do so in a way that is comfortable, that I'm not attacking you, Lee. I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure.
And I don't think you
I'm
are.
grateful that everyone is here. Go ahead, Lisa.
And I just wanted to say, out of fairness, I know that before Dena had to step out, Sharifa asked a question. I just wanted to answer that question again, if I may, because I wanted to make sure it was addressed. But I want to kind of back up and say here that I think probably one of the larger mistakes in all of this was not understanding, or at least not thinking about what sort of impact this would have before making it public. A lot of the decisions that were made, especially with casting minus 1 or 2 people, were made before the decision to make it public was made. And if I wasn't able to make that clear initially, I apologize for not making it clear until now. So that was part of my thinking and saying, at least part of that. You know, and while the last person I added to the group of people playing was a person of color, not Geneva, but it probably was, it wasn't probably, it just was not enough. And I am personally at fault for that. You know, I think one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I cleared up on here, though, is that, you know, Neiko definitely had his own mini that he's preparing for tomorrow, and I really wanted to take over the planning of this as much as I can. And so while I haven't seen as much of the comments, I just want people to know that, you know, I take full responsibility for all the decisions that were made. I don't want, you know, I don't want any of the backlash to fall back on Neiko, because I think, as everyone can attest, he is probably one of the greatest people in this community. And I don't want my actions to reflect on him.
I know I personally am very excited to see Neiko play tomorrow, especially if rumors of his attire are true. But I'm grateful to you both for being here, for answering these questions. We know that not everybody feels comfortable doing so. So thank you for listening to us. I wanted to introduce one of my favorite people, one of Sharifa's favorite people, Josh, who's joining us. Josh, thank you so much for making time to be with us tonight. Let's go ahead and move forward into the conversation so we can keep going and talk about when it was decided and how it was decided to add the Black Lives Matter charity and kind of what the intent behind that was.
Suzi, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
I think Henry wanted to say something, so you can sub me out for now if you want.
You know,
so you can bring him in.
I'd rather wait for Henry for just a little while.
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you private chat with me about that? And that way we can make a decision about when to bring Henry in.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lee and Neiko, if y'all can talk a little bit about the BL.
About
bringing
you mean the fundraiser?
Yeah, what the decision behind making a fundraiser was, and why and who, like, what the intent was.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say who in the group decided.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't want y'all to name names. That's not what I meant. I meant if you like what the idea was behind it. I apologize. Let's not name names.
Someone brought up in the event itself, because we just had a Facebook event group to try and coordinate like things that were going on, and really just so I could let them know as things were happening. And someone had brought up in the group, you know, it might be a nice thing for all of us, especially since it had been so promoted in the group, to donate and participate in the petitions and whatnot. If we could do, I think a similar player in a previous mini, maybe in the past week or so, said, like, for every round that I survive in the game, I'm going to donate X amount of money to one of these fundraisers. And so someone brought up in our group, like, wouldn't it be nice if as many of the players in our mini also did the same thing? And so I got a little ahead of myself and said, well, you know, if we're going to open this up to the public, why don't we give other people the chance to back someone and say, like, we'll pledge X amount of money for the amount of, you know, rounds that they survive too. Because I said, while it's really great that we're giving, it would seem nice to be able to open this up, especially if we think a lot of people are going to be watching, to give as well.
Okay. Neiko, do you have anything to add to that?
No, yeah, that's definitely correct. That someone brought it to us in the group, and like, yeah, like when they brought it, I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it, you know, let's fundraise, why not? Like, it would be a good idea. Like, we weren't even thinking about it at first, and then someone brought it up and we're like, yeah, this is awesome. And if it does happen, then we're like, well, if we go public with it too, this will be even better. Like, get everyone getting money on in this, it'll be a good idea. So yeah, like, and that's pretty much how it went. So we're like, yeah, let's do the fundraiser. Like, why? This is great. Yeah.
Somebody pointed out that it was Daniel Kennedy, who I now call Daniel Kennedy because I stan him. but so it was kind of like a BTW situation. It wasn't the main point of the mini. It was like this extra situation. Now, when it came to the forefront, was that a moment when we could have looked at the cast and said, this is a chance to look at, this is a chance to look at our cast and see how that reflects the goals of the mini?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I agree.
Yeah, no. Like the fundraiser part of it came in. I honestly don't remember, Lee. Do you remember when they brought it to our attention?
Earlier this week.
Yeah, so it was really just kind of last minute type thing. We put it on, so we already had the cast pretty much, and we already had the name and everything with with everyone that was involved, and that's pretty much what was happening. So when the fundraiser came in, yeah, but definitely at that point, once we said, okay, we're going to do the fundraiser, that's on me too. That like I should have just thought, okay, if we're going to do this, like we need to like look at this more. I didn't even think about it. I take part in that for sure because I didn't even think twice on that, and that's totally on me too. So I just was like, okay, this is awesome. We got fundraising now. We got a cast. Like it's all coming together because Lee was working super hard to get it all together. I was like trying to do all my things for the prom one too. So I was like going in with Lee. I'm like, yeah, this looks great. Let's do it. Like I was super excited about this. Really, really was excited. And so, but yeah, I think we definitely probably should look more into it and had, for sure. Yeah.
And I'll just say to kind of piggyback off.
I'm not saying.
Go ahead, Ivan. Go ahead.
Oh no! Go finish what you were saying.
I was just gonna say, by the time that we had done this, we had essentially 19 people completely confirmed for our group to play. We were going back and forth between about 3 people for that last spot. And like I said, that last person we added was a POC. That I won't say, I don't want to take any credit as saying that was intentional because of that. It just happened that way. So I don't want to say like, oh, look at that great thing I did. But I did not, it was more of a matter, I would say, of, I think I would have felt uncomfortable asking someone who had already paid or asking someone who had committed and was excited to say, okay, now do you mind stepping off of this so that we can invite someone else? And so I think sometimes I just get really excited and jump forward with ideas and just take everyone's ideas and tell them they're good. And instead of really thinking about maybe their ideas have a different impact, because essentially when I put them out there, they're then also put out as my ideas because I gave them the blessing. And I just did not have that love or that moment of introspection in that moment.
I do want to speak to intentionality, but I also want to make sure, Ivan, you wanted to say something?
Yes. So, by no means am I questioning the fundraising part. Like, I think that was a great idea. I think all minis should start doing something similar. However, where the problem was again, backing up Sharifa, what she said, that the minute this was posted, we all saw that, it was a Black Lives Matter thing, yet you only have Geneva in the cast. And it's like, even the international said it, like, it's like, as if the internationals were playing and we were fighting for women's rights, yet there's only one woman in the cast. So you know how it could like look bad to others. Like that was our main concern.
And to harp onto that, and it goes into what I wanted to bring up, was intentionality. And you said it, Lee, like you didn't have the intention. And I think like so many steps were made that if we just like stopped, took a second and look at that intentionality, like I understand where you're coming from of like, I don't want to take away this opportunity from people who we've already offered to, who've already paid. But at that point, it's like, you have to make the decision of, okay, well then I can't go public because, so often marginalized people are not thought of. There's not an intention to bring us in. And, I had this conversation last night with Mike too, when we were talking about Big Brother Australia, and we were talking about the racism that one of the contestants was facing, and it wasn't blatant. It was all systemic and under the surface. And he said, I didn't need to see that. And Mike too's amazing, by the way. This is not coming from him. I'm just saying this is a conversation we had where he said, I didn't see it. And I responded, well, because you don't have to. you don't have those lenses. And so I just hope as we move forward, as you see this, that we do have that intention, that we do have this intention, and that maybe in your life that you start to think more actively about that space that isn't given to others and how you can contribute to giving that space. Yes. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, and go ahead, Lee.
No, I just was going to say, I think, part of it was, at least when this started, I don't think that we had any intention of making this a public thing, but I think it was more of I don't know the best way to say this, and I apologize, for my inability to describe this very well. But I think that when we did have some of the bigger name people and knew that they were going to share this out because any of the players had the right to do that, that it seemed more like, well, why are we not sharing this with the sequester community? Like if X person is going to share this with their followers and all these people are going to be watching, why would we not come back and share it here? And so that was kind of and so I was just like, okay, why not? And again, my fault.
So I wanted to ask, or not really ask, but just say, like, when you guys did added this whole Black Lives Matter fundraiser to this, did you guys feel as if it was coming off genuinely? Like, did you feel that you were doing this up from the bottom of your heart, thinking that this is support, or is it because of the bandwagon? Because I do feel like a lot of our social media and everything, and the trend is to support this as much as we can. And I feel like the support is coming off from the surface level instead of coming from actually trying to understand where this is coming all from. And I want to ask you guys, was this really a genuine response? And was that what you guys truly wanted to do? Or was this all just ideas popping off?
So I'll just respond in saying that, when the idea first came up and it was just the idea for the players to do it, it was really exciting for me. And it was kind of more of a, why didn't I think of that before kind of thing. So yes, in some ways, Josh, it was kind of an ideas popping off type of thing. But I think in another sense, it was also because our leader in all of this had provided that platform where we could set up these minis and do these fun things together. I thought, one of the things that she always preaches so heavily is support these, organizations, sign these petitions. And so it was kind of like, how can we also not do that, but also say, I was excited to do that as well. So excited that I wanted to make an opportunity at least to see if other people could support us rather than just saying our group's going to do that. I don't have a best answer on how to do this or how it could have been done differently. It was just the parts were moving fast and I wanted to make it happen. And again, it's my fault.
Ivan, just to make space for more in the conversation, is there anything else that you wanted to say?
Gosh, I mean, I'm sure there's more, but I think Henry has way more stuff than me. So if y'all can let him in my place, then that's totally fine. So
okay, well let's.
But yeah, I think a lot will be said.
Okay. Thank you, Ivan. We're going to continue just wrapping up this part of the conversation, and then we're going to bring on Henry and Lee. Anyone here has the autonomy to leave or stay after that point, but I want to make sure before we bring on Henry that we are going to finish up this conversation. But thank you so much for being here, Ivan.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
Ivan.
Bye.
I do want to say to Lee, I do feel like you're taking this as if everybody's coming at you. I do want to say that this is a opportunity to, educate more. And I want to say to Neiko, to Lee, to Daniel, to everybody who had thought that this was going to be something that's successful and a great thing to offer for the community, I appreciate it from that point, from that aspect. Like, you guys are doing something good. Know that. We just want to educate more on intentions and how it could have affected us more than come and say, yo, you guys did something wrong. You guys did something good, okay? And don't ever let this really take you down, because that's not how we're trying to how we're trying to come off. Anybody's trying to come off that way. We do not want to take you guys down. This is a community of building up and accepting each other. So please don't fault yourself, even though you feel like this is your fault.
I do want to make this point because I saw this comment. I think I know I have like an academic background in some of this stuff, and I think that some of us do, and I don't want it to feel like we're not being accessible. So I certainly want to keep. I'm sorry. I love the chat because I think it keeps us accountable. And absolutely, if I'm saying something that y'all are like, this is not spitting facts, this is academic theorists kind of getting into that kind of bullshit. I do that sometimes. So I'm into it, chat. Just call me out and be like, Suzi, nobody even knows what are you talking about? What are you even talking about right now? Are you talking about Fanon? Shut up. That's not what this is about. So thank you, chat, for telling us that we need to cut the jargon and get straight to it.
I did just want to make a brief comment first, because I do want to kind of touch on what Josh said. I know that what was being done was done with positive intentions. And I think one thing that we should look at too is that I know despite the optics and despite, what ended up happening, I think the one great thing we can say is that we do have a lot of white allies in the community that do want to stand for justice. So I just feel like that's just one thing that I just wanted to say there, is that I do agree that, there are so many ways this could have been done better. And I know we're going to delve more into it. But I just wanted to say that I think one thing that we've been seeing a lot out there is there has been a lot of racial injustice, a lot of racism, a lot of issues. And sometimes it's also very important for us to have white allies to help support us and uplift us together. So I just want to say that I do completely understand basically what went on. And I think that things could have been done better. And I think there should have been more approval before the post was put out there. But I can say that, I know it was done with positive intentions because the people who were part of the cast wanted to support Black Lives Matter and, believe in that. So that's what I just wanted to at least put out there.
Thanks, Geneva.
So do we have any other questions for Lee or Neiko, or do we want to make space for more about how this has impacted our community and how our community, especially people of color, want to kind of move forward through these ideas?
And Neiko, I do want to give space really quick for you to sort of, Lee's already mentioned it, but sort of talk about your involvement within this. We've had a few conversations, and I think everyone in this community knows how big your heart is and how kind you are. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to sort of talk about where you were coming from in this situation.
Yeah, so it was all brought together for good intention. Sequester is an amazing community. It is so diverse, and that is what makes this literally one of the best groups that you can think of, honestly. Everyone is a family here. So when we made this, Lee came and he was super excited, wanted to do a private mini, and I was like, let's do it. Yeah, why not? And it was it was all good intentions. And then I think where we lacked, and I take part in this too, like I said, Lee's taken all the blame he's saying, but I had part of it too. I could have informed the cast more. I could have talked to Lee more. I wasn't always there to help Lee out all the time when he was doing all this. So that's on me. I could have done so much more to, help prevent, just do anything I could. So I take part in that as well. So it was I'm just this whole all day I've been just distraught, and I feel awful about everything. I just hate seeing people upset. So yeah, sorry.
I think that's an important point, is to think that nobody set out to hurt anybody here, and this is where we can really think about intent versus impact, and the fact that this comes a lot with privilege, and the idea that privilege kind of makes it unable to see where our actions are going to lead or how it would look from somebody else's point of view who's in a different position. So I'm really glad that Neiko brought up the point that nobody was coming here to hurt anybody, because I don't think that anybody in this Sequester community wants to hurt people, or I like to think that. I mean, I don't know. Sharifa did vote me out, so
you brought up my name first.
So I don't know, but my point is that we can see how intent can sometimes lead to a different impact, and that's where we need to start taking responsibility, right? Is that like we can say, I didn't mean to all you want, but what we then have to do is say, how can I change or move forward or listen or do whatever it is I need from my community or whatever my community needs from me. And I think that's really why we wanted to jump on this podcast, because I don't think that, like, no offense, guys, but one white person doing something that looks weird is not like that unusual for most of us, right? So I think that the more important point is to think about impact and intent and how sometimes they don't align. And I know that there's some comments about how there was some hurtful intent behind this. I don't have that information, and I think that that has less to do with the people of color community. And so I can't really speak to that.
What I will say, just because I have been updated on that, and I said this before, negative intention breeds negative intention. And we're not going to go into all that, what's been addressed and needed to be addressed. But I just want to make this very clear to everyone watching and everyone here and everyone a part of the sequestered community that, like, be kind, be caring, and always have good intent. Because if you do, then good things will happen. I promise you that. So I'm just going to say that and leave it there in terms of that portion of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. So I think the question that we have, Lee, before we let you go, it would be, what does what's in the, and I guess Neiko, you can answer this too. Where are we on the mini? I know Sarah Yell has said that she is no longer participating. Are y'all in the middle of kind of trying to reconfigure? Are you still in the midst of chaos? How are y'all feeling about the mini moving forward on Thursday?
I'm not sure what we're doing yet. I don't know, Lee, if you've already started thinking about it, but I haven't yet. So
yeah, I didn't want to really make any hard and fast decisions before coming on here. I mostly didn't want to say I have a plan, but then kind of seemed like I made the plan without thinking about anything, because it seems like that's kind of how I got myself into this mess in the first place. So I really, I definitely, I want to continue to make this happen, especially for the people that still want to play and make it fun for them. But also, I think where I've had some change ups in the cast, breed some opportunity to invite some new people in to play in this game, and hopefully show that, I have learned. But I think it's, it's one thing to just say, I'm going to change the cast and make that different, but I really want to be thoughtful about these decisions that I make moving forward for the cast, especially in including them in the decisions I make and who I invite and so on and so forth. I know that we've invited one person in already to take someone's spot. And I think that, at least, and we can share that offline or whatever, but I think our group feels pretty good about some of the choices that have been made and some of the reconfigurations that have been made. We are not going to make this public anymore, just because I think that it would be disrespectful to do so in light of, people that may not want.
It was the wrong comment. I'm sorry. I keep hitting the wrong comments, y'all. I am new at this.
I just want to speak. This is Suzi and I's first time running Podquester without Louie and TR. So there's a couple of moments that we're still learning our groove. And I want to thank everyone for bearing with us and being a part of that with us.
Yeah, I think that my recommendation, Lee, would be, and Neiko, whoever's on the cast or interested in running a private mini, is to really listen to your community. And by that, I mean, you know, the people that were harmed, and see kind of what the recommendation is from them, and maybe think about, you know, because I think this isn't an easy fix. I think people were sincerely hurt. Things were hurtful that were said amongst people. Like, I mean, I know I got heated. I'm still waiting on my apology from Jesse Lawson that I don't think is coming. So, I mean, I don't think that this is an easy fix. And I think that taking some time to think about it is not the worst idea. And maybe listening to people and hearing what they're saying, because there's no Band-Aid for this. Just
and
casting
Suzi,
people of color.
If I can just address the comment you made earlier about, I think, the apology that you're waiting on. Obviously, I can't apologize on his behalf, but I really, but I do no, and I don't think that an apology from him comes from me, but I do want to at least share in the responsibility for that, because I do think that, whereas maybe the intention was to defend me, the delivery was not good. And so I have to take some responsibility in at least being party to that. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see much up until some things were deleted. But I feel like I have to own my part in that. So I really am sorry.
I appreciate that, but Jesse's in charge of himself, and he knows what he said and how he said it. And he has, I mean, I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook if he wants to talk about me or to me, but I'm not going to talk too much about Jesse. He's not here tonight for a reason. He's, you know, his opinion's not as important as some of the other people who are coming up here. So I'd rather hear from like hurt people than people who do the hurting. Do we have any last questions or comments for Lee? Oh, Josh, come on up.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna make this quick. Just, you know, I wasn't necessarily truly hurt about the whole BLM movement, because I do know that was coming off of positive intentions. But I was more like confused about, or more just like, okay, dang, was the naming, the branding of this mini, was because at the end of the day, we are all kind of players who are Big Brother, Survivor, or wannabes, or just loving sequester. So we are all technically on the same level, and nobody's like excluded from a group of inclusivity. You know, that's what we are branded on, and what has made us. That's what the leader of this group had founded this group on. So I want us to continue that, and continue loving and supporting each other, and never really trying to exclude people out. And a name can really have effect on that.
And I want to sort of bottom off what Josh is saying, going in a slightly different direction, but still with the same intention. Because Khaled brought up a really great point in the comments. You know, it's not about casting POC for the sake of casting POC. I am a theater director. Half of my job is casting. I can't tell you how much I go through. And I have been in so many rooms, and this is like quite literally casting for a show, which is slightly different from this. But I've been in so many rooms where people were cast specifically because they're looking for POC, while people who were fantastic, who are marginalized people who are also POC, would have been amazing for the lead roles, who were the best person for the lead roles, and did not get them. So I want to be clear, as I don't think we truly move forward until you recognize, and when I say you, I mean everyone, until we recognize that there were legends that you could have contacted. There were VIP. There are amazing POC players. You have 4 right here. And I hope moving forward that we are included in that conversation, that you don't have to bring us on board because we're a POC. You bring us on board because we're amazing players. That's. I just wanted to leave it with that.
Can I just respond
Absolutely.
to your comment? I'm sorry. I just wanted to respond in saying, you know, I really think that this is something that I should have kept private. I think that, you know, the original, when you go back to the very beginning, was that the two of us, or at least, and I take the larger responsibility for this, is that we wanted to cast people who we had played with and we were friends with. And so because it already became that exclusive friend group, we should have kept it private like that. And I think that was definitely where I went wrong.
Neiko, you and I played together. I can't get a hit up.
Oh,
I didn't drag you. That was Louis.
Yeah, I know. Louis, dang it.
And I mean, I was talking a mile a minute, so it's my fault. And I hope that, you know, and I really, I'm such a fan, especially of Sharifa, you know, like I've always been really fond of following her on Twitter and having, you know, being able to engage and even reading through the stuff today. Like I was really reading through it because I've always thought that everything, you know, I've always thought everything you've said on Twitter has been something so important for me. And I apologize in saying that I only included my friends, but I didn't ask you. You know, it's one of those things where I really hope that I can continue to make more friends in this community, you know, as long as people are going to be open to making friendships. And I certainly am going to cast that net wider. But I think that at the point where it was set as an exclusive friend group, it should have been left private.
Yeah, I think that we need to open up our communities more. Like I said, I really do want to focus more on people of color in the stream. So I think this is the fourth time I've said it, but people still have questions. Do we have any more questions or comments for Lee?
I think this is a great place to wrap up this portion of the conversation.
Okay, thank you so much, Lee, for coming on, for being willing to answer our questions. Looking forward to seeing what ends up happening, and you got my DM, so if you have questions or conversations that you want to have, I am here for the community, and that includes like building community even with white guys. Can y'all believe it? No. So this is Lee's Twitter. I'm sure he'll be posting the details as to whether or not it's private so that y'all will have the information. And he is a member of the sequestered community, so let's keep the community strong. I don't know where I was going with that. All right. Thank you so much, Lee, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Lee.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
You're a good man. You have a cool name.
Okay, and now we'll be adding Henry.
Hi,
Henry
everyone.
is
Hello,
coming
Henry.
on. I don't
Hi,
think I have
Queen
your...
Geneva.
Yeah.
Hi,
How's it
King
going?
Josh. Hello,
Wait.
Neiko. Hi, Sharifa. Hi,
Hello.
Queen.
I just wanted to say I
over
loved
this.
you on Podquester. I just wanted to say that, Henry. I loved you on Podquester when I
Girl,
saw
I
you.
loved everyone here on their minis. I love Geneva and Josh on their minis. Before I say anything, I do want to start off by saying, Sharifa and Suzi, you guys are doing a great job hosting
As I
this.
accidentally post my own comments instead of someone else's. There we go.
But I do have some things to say in regards about this mini. And I first off want to say is that it felt like a lot of the Black Lives Matter things were tacked on at the end of this mini. And my statement is don't just pledge and donate for the sake of it. You have to educate and research yourself. We're combating systemic inequality, like inequity here. Like it's just bigger than like donations and pledges, but you should still donate and pledge. Like after you donate, you should ask yourself, what are you doing as as a person to be a great ally, to be a better ally? And I don't feel like that was really done here. I think it was tacked on at the end to score a little bit more points within the community. And I think if you are going to tack something like that on at the end, you should not have 19 Caucasians and 1 Black person in Geneva, because it felt like Geneva was being tokenized in the cast. It felt like Geneva was the token Black woman in the cast that they could add on to make it look, she was the raisin in the milk bowl, to put it bluntly. It felt as if she was being tokenized in this cast. And like we're all a part of a community. Our actions and reactions affect each other, no matter how private they are. Like acknowledge your privileges when you're hosting, when you're running one of these things. And be cautious of what you do or say. Everything has consequences, whether positive or negative, and you should expect those consequences, and you should be intentional. Like, I mean, this was not, to put it frankly, I know the origins of how this mini came to be. And it, like, there was, this was, I can get to that later, but I did want to bring up something that Lee said. Lee said that Geneva was added, like was kind of added towards like, I believe he said that there was Geneva was one of 3 people kind of that they were bouncing around as a name to be added towards the cast. I believe you said that, which means that there were almost no people of color in a cast for a Black Lives Matter charity mini, which is horrific to me, because how are you not going to have any people of color, any Black people, any Asian people, any Hispanic people, anyone? How are you not going to have any people of color in a mini where you tack it on at the end? We're also supporting Black Lives Matter. As someone who is half Black, I was insulted. I was like, how are you just going to add someone on, you're just kind of adding a cause on at the end? What's not getting through? That's not how it should be. And if you're casting one of these in the future, representation always matters. And like he said, he didn't know, as for me, it was also a person of color. Okay, well, I'll believe it when I see it. So representation always matters in these games. Just because you have a lack of network, does not compensate for underrepresentation, especially when people look up to you in the community and look up to you as a mini host. Technology is a great means to connect with people outside of your circle. It's pretty easy. It's kind of what social media was invented for. I have just a small, a pretty actually long list of people of color you could have added, but I'm just going to name 10. You could have added Aman, Suzi, Daniel, Puya, Josh, Dena, PM, Renzo, JC, and Lynn. That's just 10 right there off the top of my head. There was no excuse to have this underrepresented cast. And honestly, I don't, as I said, your lack of network does not mean lack of diversity. And even we all intersectionality is also key here. Racial minorities, ethnic minorities, people with disabilities, women, non-binary people, LGBTQIA people, veterans, formerly incarcerated, just all of these. You could have had all of this diversity. And I think it's telling when you're 19 of your closest friends in this sequester community, which has so many great people of color, are white people. To put it bluntly, are just white people. And that is what disturbs me as someone in this community. I know it wasn't intentional, but when I saw that cast and you named it, let's be real here. If no one had pushed back, it would have continued to be Sequester VIP. You're telling me that out of everyone in the cast, only 1 to 2 of them are of the VIPs in Sequester are people of color? You're joking me. You have, I'm not a legend, but you have Suzi, wow, Suzi, Sharifa, Josh.
You are a legend.
Sorry.
You really are a legend.
Geneva, Joshua, Sharifa, and Suzi in this call right here.
Here's the thing. I will say this, and I think Phil makes a good comment here, that the international mini also could have used more gender diversity.
100%.
And
Yeah,
I think that's what we have to think about, is that we have to look at this. And Henry, I don't mean to interrupt your flow, because Laura, you spitting.
No, girl, you. If someone has to interrupt me, it's you.
And I just want to say, we all have places to improve, and I think you're talking about the intersectionality, and that is key. I think that one of the best things about this Sequester Mini is that it's opened up a really broad place for people with disabilities who haven't played before. I have a disability. Y'all won't catch me on Big Brother. Are you fucking kidding? Endurance comp. I'm I'm done. I can't even get up that fucking wall. Are you kidding? So, this is a game I can play because I'm disabled. And I came to it because of a queer community, because I was interested in playing with queer people. And then I never expected it to be so full of people of color. I was like, what? Y'all hopping on all some cylinders. This is amazing. So I think but that doesn't mean that I'm great at this. I'm going through my own struggles of not speaking up enough about anti-Blackness in the Latinx community right now. And I'm trying to educate myself. And honestly, I'm failing a lot. And I want us to all acknowledge that we fail sometimes. And that's okay. But what we can't do is be defensive about it. And what we can't do is make excuses for it, and we can't use these as opportunities to hurt people. We have to take our own personal egos and move them aside when that's not what it's about. And I think this is a situation where we have a lot of people who had egos in the game. right? And I think that I understand the idea of VIP, but I think that that was a hurtful thing to say and do. Don't put me in a VIP game, y'all. I cry too much. I take this game a little personally, I've discovered.
Can I quickly make a comment before? I just wanted to make one comment just to address something that Henry said. So I guess I wasn't aware. I didn't hear a lot of the earlier conversations, so I don't know what was said. But I do want to say that I was actually reached out to on May 28th, so about 2 weeks ago, to participate in the mini. So I think I was kind of in the early stages of being invited, and I was invited because I was a friend of a lot of players who played at a mini. So I just did want to say that, like, they wanted to include me because I was friends with their friends, and I really appreciated that. So I just wanted to say I don't, at least from my perception and how it was introduced to me, it wasn't in a way that I was like an afterthought. It seemed like I was just included in the cast because they wanted me to be a part of the cast.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like with the casting, that race was not a factor.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't think it was intent. Oh, do you want to go, Josh?
Oh, I just want to say, I don't blame you guys. Like, I feel like at the end of the day, if you guys are gonna cast me, I don't want you guys to cast me because I'm black. I refuse to. I'd rather you guys cast me, like Geneva said, as a player of a friend. And I think that genuine respect of casting everybody like that is why I wanted to know if Black Lives Matter was off of was out of the genuineness of it. So keep more. Even if they didn't cast as many black people in this mini, they casted their friends, which I kind of understood. I was never gonna come at you guys for casting your friends. And if you want to continue casting your friends and they're black, cast them because they're your friend, not because they're black.
Not because, right. But I think that brings up to a point that I said earlier. And I want to first piggyback off of what Josh said, then I can get on to what Suzi said. So, Josh, I would 100% understand. I would not want to, you don't want to be cast because of your race. You want to be cast because you're friends with the person or you fit the criteria for being on the mini, right? But it's concerning in a community so diverse that your friends, like your closest friends in the community, are 18 or 19 other white people. That's not okay in a diverse community like this. And I think the difference between what Lee and Suzi have experienced, which is Suzi is educating herself on what she could do as to be like an ally to black people and how the Latinx community has anti-blackness within it. I don't think Lee was going to educate himself unless people spoke up to him. Like, I don't think Lee's intention with this mini, I don't know if Neiko, was not intentionally meant to be a like little private mini for his friends. And you can actually even confirm this with Dena. When this mini was beginning, he did reach out to Dena, and he was like, I want to do some charity. I don't know when exactly in the process did he reach out to Dena, but he did in fact reach out to Dena, and Dena was like, you should ask Charlie or TR to help with the charity of this mini because they've done things like this before and they've hosted and stuff like that, and they're good at finding casts. And turns out this mini was made to essentially spite prom, because Charlie did not cast Lee in prom. And I don't know if you knew that, Neiko, but
I don't really want to get into personal strife between two white guys right now. I really want to keep it focused on the hurt it counts between two people of color, or between the communities. But I do understand that there's a background that I don't fully know that might, and I think that when Sharifa was talking about intentionality, that was part of the conversation she was trying to say, was that we need to focus on our intentionality. But
I also don't want to belittle someone's hurt because
absolutely
of
not
who they are, and then we have addressed that in the best way we could while being helpful to all parties involved in the way that they wanted to be involved.
I can just completely hop off of that.
I just want to respect Charlie too, because he's not here, and I don't want to. I know that people were hurt, and I don't want to hurt people more.
Yeah. Okay, then we can just hop back in. Suzi, you're attempting to educate yourself
But I
as an
also
ally,
want to
and
speak on that because Henry, I think that's I appreciate that you're trying to give me props to that. But I mean, I have been very lucky to have amazing Black friends in my life, to have amazing Latinx friends in my life who have, you know, been a part of my life who helped me. I mean, I'm not just like wandering the world and finding things. I have amazing mentors and support and guide, and I go to them when I
And
don't
that's
know
amazing.
anything. I don't, but I mean, I don't want us to feel, if people don't know something, don't be like, I guess I have to self-educate, because build a support team, and you start building a support team by saying, how can I help? Not how can you help me? And I think that's one of the best ways we can be allies and have that conversation. I think we wanted to bring in Muna is available. So Neiko, I'm so sorry, but does anyone have any last questions or comments for Neiko before we bring in Muna?
We're still waiting on Muna.
No, she's down here. She's down here.
Amazing.
Yeah, let me just find Nico's banner.
I'm fanning out right now, and I'm trying to hold it because this is a queen in the community. That's about
I know. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Neiko, for being here, for giving us your perspective, and for listening.
Well,
do you have any last comments?
No, sorry, go ahead, Suzi.
No, I was just going to say that was the end of my sentence, literally.
Go ahead, Neiko.
I don't know. I think Josh might have had a question. I think, I saw him down there. So, yeah.
I just want to say, like, to Neiko, to Lee, you guys are still good people. You're always going to be good people. So don't let this hurt you guys. Please just remember this is an educational platform. And thank you so much for coming over here and getting your chance to explain yourself and to learn. Because I remember when people mess up in this community, PodQuest is here to let them explain, let them evolve. And I'm glad that you guys took that opportunity to do that. And thank you guys for giving them the opportunity to do that. So.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Neiko.
Thank you, Neiko.
I do want to address a question.
Thank you so much.
Fast. This isn't about you, Neiko. Sorry. I don't know what this is about, Lee. I am not in a survivor org. I don't remember this conversation. I could have just forgotten it. If so, sorry, but I don't remember this. But I'm sure. I'm not sure what this is in relationship to, but that's something that happened. Yeah. So maybe that conversation happened, and I need to go back through my DMs. I lose time very quickly in the pandemic, y'all. No joke. But I just want to respond to Lee. I literally, I should not play in Survivor org. That would be bad.
I mean, I'm fanning out.
Hi, Muna.
Okay.
A queen, a legend.
Such a legend.
A bad bitch, y'all.
An amazing conversation, y'all. I'm so glad to be a part of it. Henry, first of all, I just want to say that whole bit you made, I was over here snapping the whole entire time. Yes.
Yes, girl. Keep plugging it up.
Yes, we're so glad to have you, Muna. I know that you often have a busy schedule, and I think a lot of that is community-based, so we really appreciate that. And I appreciate you also taking time to meet with this community and have a conversation. So I think I really want to focus more on moving forward, like our feelings about how we can be supportive of the Black community, be supportive in the sequester community, and also how we're all feeling. I just want to give space to our feelings too. Y'all know me, I am an emotional mess. So I got to make sure that there's some room for some just like honest feelings. And I think Henry's been doing a good job just being honest about how he feels. And the only reason I ever correct you, Henry, is I don't want people to think that like I came up out the room like education. I just don't. I am really lucky.
I 100% understand Suzi, because Suzi, I immediately clicked with you after watching you, and then Suzi made some really nice comments to me before the international mini because I was representing Puerto Rico. She made really nice comments to me, so. Yeah,
that's right. I do love my Latinx family, but we got issues.
Muna, because you're kind of like a community organizer in your like people of color communities, and especially here in Sequester, how were you when you saw kind of how this VIP cast was mostly Caucasians in like in such a big like way, and like I think it was like 18 or 19 out of 20. When you saw that, what was kind of your reaction to a VIP kind of mini when this sequester community is so big and diverse in so many ways?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good question. I think initially I was like, okay, I see, you know, I think I noticed it right away. But initially I wasn't mad about that component. And the reason why is because it was a private mini. So I understood like, okay, you're paying additional money to play. Like if you, whoever you want to have, go ahead. If you want to have it all white, all black, whatever it is. I'm actually trying to have my coworkers trying to hop on one, maybe, you know, we'll see. But you know, it being a private one, like, I don't think in any way that, you know, for me to police who and who can't be. But I think the issue is, for me, and I think you touched on it a little bit, Henry, is when Black Lives Matter, a fundraiser was added to that, and once it was publicly. And the reason of that is really centered around the fact that it being specifically, well, for me as an organizer, for me as somebody who is right now like on the boots in Minneapolis, like, getting a lot of donations specifically for the relief. Now, I think first it's very important to acknowledge that a lot of the donations that is being sent and used is for relief of right now. So supply runs for families who have not been able to go get food or whatever because their local stores have been either looted or on fire, whatever it is, getting supplies to them and that community members. And then it's also to frontline protesters who are doing the work, who are trying to make change and all that, etc., to make sure that they have medicine, that they are able to be good. So the majority of it is for right now. So for me, seeing Black Lives Matter being an afterthought, which I noticed because they did make the cast first, and then my interpretation was that it was Black Lives Matter was just added into the end, and then it was sent into Facebook or whatever it was marketed. And for me, that's a big problem because that to me automatically looked like what's that word? Performative activism, which means that you're basically adding that so then you can get like praise, or you can just hop on the trend of Black Lives Matter, which is right now. And that to me is a big problem. And the reason for that is because my life is not a trend. My life is not for something for you to feel good about. My life is not anything related to that. So for people to hop onto that trend and just do it because other people are doing it, that's a problem. Because if you're not educating yourself, if you're not getting people like Suzi, you said, like finding a community of people to say, hey, what do you need? Or whatever it is, and you're just donating, then what's the point? Why are you donating if you don't know why you're donating?
Black lives are not marketable. These Black lives are not for you to boost clout in any way, especially not in like an online reality game. We're not just like a cute little like donation box you can add in for the mini. It's a serious movement. And to see it be kind of misused in this way was so just offensive and a little bit just kind of like horrific. I mean, like it was just, you see all of these riots and all of these protests going on, and it's just that, like,
that's why I got heated too. And I know that, like I said, I'm not going to talk about the person I got heated with, but I do feel passionately that if money is the only thing you can give money. If your voice is the only thing you can give your voice. But always be looking and listening for what else we can give, because we all have things that people don't know. Is it a shoulder to lean on? Is it a game to play? Mm-hmm. What is it that we can give? And always be in these. And if you're going to say you care, then your position should be to hear me when I say you're hurting me. Mm-hmm. And when that wasn't heard, that's when we all make mistakes. But the defensiveness is where I get really upset. Not willing to hear people say you're hurting me. You can't say you care about me and then have that kind of reaction, right? Mm-hmm. So 100%. Using the Black Lives Matter as a trend is so offensive on so many levels that I can't even talk about how gross that is. But to then, when somebody mentions it, to say, I don't know, the things that have been said is hurtful, and it doesn't help the situation in any way. somebody said woke Olympics is not allyship. Let's also talk about, people who want to use AAVE and then with incorrectly, and then also not want to hear them. I mean, somebody else mentioned earlier about Black people being memes and then don't want to hear them. So this is not the place or the time for your sensitivity or your white fragility. This is the time and the place to hear what people are coming in to say. And I think, like Sharifa and I said, this is not going to be the only conversation about this in reality TV. This one was very impromptu, but I do want to acknowledge that it also came about not because somebody did something wrong, but because there was a lot of defensiveness in the community that people were calling that out. And that was hard to see people backing up these ideas that it was okay to treat people of color this way, to treat them like a trend, or to treat them or to gaslight them and tell them that they were overreacting. This is a community, and we need to stand up and listen to the people of color, the Black people in our community who are saying this is not okay, because they're coming from experience, or we're coming from experience, and all we can do is hear them and try to correct ourselves.
100%.
I also want to,
Yeah.
I want to make the distinction here too of just of everyone being able to check themselves, and also specifically non-Black POC, because this is our time that there are things that we understand. This is not one of them. And we need to step back and listen and be as much of an ally as we possibly can. Because the only reason I want to bring that up is I feel like the umbrella word of POC is really being thrown around right now. And I've tried to be as specific as I can when I say specifically the Black community. So I just want us to check that as we move forward, especially for our viewers watching it, that if you are not Black, it is your position in this conversation to hold a microphone in front of somebody who is, if they want to and are willing to speak.
Yeah, and if you really want to be effective with helping out the Black Lives Matter, you guys, just remember to not just you don't need to give us your money. You don't have to give us you don't have to give us your money. You don't have to give us your time. You just got to give us your heart. Because with your heart, you allow us to know that you care. You allow us to know that you're hearing and understanding us. And that is truly what's going to help us move this movement to the direction we need this to effectively change. And even this podcast right here, giving people a platform to change, will continue this movement. We'll continue the push, because this is us giving each other our heart. So remember that everybody has a heart.
And you can't buy allyship. You cannot put down $50 or $100 and then buy yourself allyship. That's not enough. You got to show up and show out when people ask for you. And yes, with your heart, in whatever manner or abilities you have, those are the conversations.
And I also think it's important to acknowledge that this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. This is based off of a systematic racist system rooted in over 400 years. It's not going to be over next week. It's not going to be over next month or the next couple of years. It's going to take generations. And it starts with us. And it starts with donations are an immediate thing, but it's not the long-term solution. It's with us. And allyship is important, because at the end of the day, the oppressed cannot fix the problem because they're not the one doing it. And it is on our allies. It is on white people to fix that problem, because it is their problem. And it's not on Black people. So I want to give space to Geneva, because I noticed that we're taking up space and I haven't heard the system.
Oh, that's okay. No, I mean, I think this is all a difficult situation for me, because I've kind of become this face of a situation that I didn't even know that I was going to be. Mostly because, I think, going into the game, I was told, we were going to be doing this, with a group of friends, and it was going to be a private mini. So I was perfectly fine with that, because, I, had been communicating with a lot of these people who were in the mini. So I was really open to that. And I was looking forward to participating in the mini. And then I know a few days before the mini, it was mentioned, should we maybe be giving to a cause or something, should that be incorporated? I think that would be something great to do right now, a form of action to incorporate it with what's happening right now. And so, you know, of course, like everyone was pretty much in agreement and was pretty supportive of that. But I think there was never really a discussion of what the actual mini theme would be. So I don't think it was ever really clear that we were going to call it VIP or what it was going to be discussed as. So I think that's probably more of the thing that I think was probably the issue. Just that I feel that in the situation, it should have been like we got continuous like messages. We were in a group where we were like a private event page where we were talking about what was going on, but like we didn't really get the poster beforehand to be like, is everyone good with this, or you know, that sort of thing. So you know, I guess when I saw it in the moment, I was like, oh, VIP, you know, like I was like, oh, okay, I've never thought of myself as a VIP, but I guess it's probably the Big Brother people who are involved because, you know, I think that in that aspect, it makes them special. And then, you know, when I look at the post, I am like, you know, I knew that who was being casted, but I didn't really, you know, or cast. I didn't think about it though. And then I realized I was like, oh, yeah. I'm the only Black/Hispanic person that's on the cast. And then this is a situation where we're doing a charity event for Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter causes. And so I can see exactly how people were feeling and how they were hurting, because it's like, if Black Lives Matter, then why is that not reflected in the cast? And so that's just, you know, a difficult situation. And it's hard because I know that, you know, Lee and Neiko had positive intentions. And I know that this was supposed to be, you know, a game for fun, and they wanted to bring support. And so for me, it's been very challenging too, because I think a lot of people have wanted to know my opinion as the, you know, perceived token Black person that's on the cast. And, you know, of course, it's like, I want to give my input, but I also had a lot of crazy things going on. I'm also trying to finish my master's degree. So today's been a really crazy day where I haven't even really been able to give that response, because I feel like, you know, if I give a response, I want to be able to give a really well thought out response. And unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to do that. But I think, you know, it's difficult because I think this is definitely a learning opportunity. And I think that I'm happy that, you know, Lee and Neiko came on this platform to discuss it with you guys, because I think it's very important that they understand why people are hurting and why people are affected by this issue. For me, I, in the moment, wasn't, because I wasn't really thinking about the dynamics. And usually when I watch, you know, reality shows, or even when I watch Sequester or whatever I'm watching and looking at, that's always the first thing that I look at. I'm like, where's the representation? What am I going to see? And like, you know, and like the minis that I've watched with like Muna and like Josh specifically, like those were very meaningful to me. And even Henry, because he's Puerto Rican, so I appreciate that. But like, you know, and like, you know, so seeing those things and seeing people who are like me, you know, play these games and do well and be successful is so meaningful. And so, you know, I do see like definitely it's difficult because there are so many iconic VIPs in this community who are people of color, including Zach. And, you know, and I think that it is a complex situation. And I know even there's been a lot of controversy with who specifically is in the cast, because they have been seen in certain controversies on previous seasons. So I think that could have been a thing that maybe I would have had to worry about in the game. I'm not too sure. Like, who knows? I'm not sure. But yeah, so like for me, I think it's difficult because it's like, you know, I didn't really get to give too much input in the situation, but then it's also a lot of people are expecting input from me. And so it's like, is my answer like the only answer? Which is, I don't think it should be. I think it's been great to hear everybody's voices so far in the community, especially on Podquester, talking about these issues. And so I think that it's important that everybody listens to that, takes in that feedback, and, you know, makes the outcome in the situation better. And so for me, I personally in the moment wasn't necessarily affected by it. But once I saw the comments, I realized, I was like, yeah, this is actually probably not good at all. This is not a good situation. And even when I saw that so everything was deleted, when I saw it ended up on Twitter, I felt even more uncomfortable, honestly, because I'm like, now I'm associated with this because, and everyone's like, Geneva's the one token Black person in the situation. So for me, it was definitely a really overwhelming afternoon, evening for me, because it's just, it's a complex situation. And as the one person that's in that cast, and everyone's talking about you and the situation, it can be hard. So
I just want to say, Geneva, that I'm really thankful that you're here, but I agree. I don't feel like the onus should be on you to speak for either all Black people or for the casting or for the situation. And I apologize personally if you felt like we asked you on here to do any of those things, or if you felt pressured to, because that's not okay. So I really am grateful that you came on at all. Can you tell me really fast what your master's is in?
Yeah, it's in public administration, so an MPA.
Oh, yes.
You're
doing it. You are doing it.
I'm all about the.
If you need to go, I understand for sure. But we love us some Geneva. I did draft you.
Geneva, before I did just want to say to you, you when I saw you on this cast, I did not see you in any type of way as like a perpetrator of this cast at all. You are someone who's been kind of thrust into like a very intense and pressurized situation that's like really hasn't happened before in the sequestered community, and you've handled this incredibly maturely, and like you've handled this in such grace and class that a lot of other people wouldn't be able to handle or do. And whenever I see you playing sequester, or I just see you like around, you always handle things with grace, class, maturity, like dignity, etc. Right? Like, give me another positive adjective, because like you always handle it with such grace and class. And I think the issue was kind of already deep embedded into the cast. I mean, Black Lives Matter is not something to be tacked on at the end. And especially if you're going to have a Black Lives Matter cast, there should be more diversity. And if you're going to bring on an alumni of Big Brother, bring back someone who actually would support Black Lives Matter. Because you had two people on that cast you had 14th place and Cliff Hogg, who were not exactly people, when you think of them, you think of Black Lives Matter. You had someone who helped perpetrate one of the most racist seasons in Big Brother history in Big Brother 21. And you had Jesse Larson, who was basically kind of defending the entire situation for no real purpose. And he was incredibly rude to one of the co-hosts, Suzi. And honestly, Geneva, when you get off this call, feel very good about yourself, because everyone here, and chat can attest to this, we all love you. We all think you have such grace, class, poise, etc. And as a person of color, when I grow up, I want to be someone like Geneva. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Henry.
Geneva, I do want to say, just to everything that you said, like, I apologize in my tweet speaking about the fact that there was only one Black person in the cast. I know so often that we are used as statistics, and we are more than statistics, we are people. Absolutely. So I just wanted to say that to you and take ownership for that.
Thank you so much. I think in the moment I was just like overwhelmed, and I think like, what's going on? But I think you were, of course, pointing out an important issue, and it's an important issue that we see on Big Brother, Survivor, and many competition reality shows all the time, and we don't really get representation. So I think it is something that is important to highlight. But I guess, just seeing the poster, I think caught me off guard, definitely.
Yeah. And I've got to say, had the mini continued, and we'd like not really caught on to it and said anything, you would have still continued. And I want to say this as a hypothetical: if the mini had continued, you would be an excellent representation of the Black community, of the Latin community, just of racial minorities and ethnic minorities in general. You would be an excellent representation. And I keep on saying, I keep on stressing it. When you get off of this call, do not feel any negativity, because you are a victim of the circumstance. You had nothing to do with the casting. You didn't know what was going on. Apparently most of the cast didn't, but you especially, as the only kind of Black woman in that in that cast, you come out of this You end up looking amazing, and once you get off this call, once you go to bed, no negativity. And if there is negativity, I'll be like completely gooped, because come off of this feeling yourself, come off of this feeling beautiful, come off of this feeling intelligent, come off of this feeling amazing.
Well, and I want to be so clear when I say this to everybody, that marginalized players are more than their marginalization. And we truly have not moved forward until we're not recognized for that fact. Because we are so much more than the blank player. We have names.
I think also Devon from Big Brother 17 and 18 brought a really good point to this, where she felt almost as if she was being parodied for her blackness on the show. No one, like a lot of like the white fans are like, oh, Mama D is so sassy, like we stand, whatever. No one brings up a lot of the times people of color's like gameplay in these games. They don't bring up the moves they made, like what they did as people. Like if you went and you looked at, let's say, if you went and you looked at like mentions of Black players, it's always either critiquing their behavior or kind of like fetishizing them into memes or into characters. It's never like anything as like there's no point made about about their strategy, about how articulate they were. Whereas if it was like a white cast member, there would be so much just, oh, they're so intelligent, oh, they're so this and that. And Devon brought a great point. She didn't really appreciate being called Mama Day on the show, because she felt as if she was being like, oh, Mama Day, yes. Like she felt as if she was being essentially kind of put into that mama role because she was a Black woman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want, again, to get into this role that I have often gotten into of being too academic, but the idea of the mammy role, I think is something that we can definitely look at with Mama Day. Like the idea that a Black woman is there to comfort or nurture or care for other people instead of being their own agent or person. It's and I'm happy to share an article with anybody who's interested about how this is a trope that we see often in television and films of Black women being cast only in the motherhood role instead of a role for agency, and this of course is complicated by sexuality, etc. But again, I promise I'm not gonna make this into a gender studies lecture. We're gonna have a whole ass series, y'all, Brown Girl Breakdown, where we keep talking about race and gender and sexuality in this whole show. I did want to bring on Isaac. Isaac is in the middle of organizing something very exciting, I think, for Sequester Mini.
Yes, me and Isaac are both actually organizing.
Henry, are you a part of this? I love it.
Hey,
Legend supporting legend.
What y'all said? What y'all think?
So I wanted to kind of I think Josh had something really important to say before we got into that from Isaac.
Well, I also have some things to say besides what I'm planning, because I want to get into exactly why I did it.
Yeah, can we just let Josh, though? I think it was pretty important from the message I got.
Oh, it's a oh yeah, I forgot it. I was just gonna say, Isaac, you're my OG sequester crush. Michelle.
Oh well, thank you. I'll do what I can.
Welcome back.
I just wanted to make a little room for love. I just wanted to make a little room for love tonight.
Woo! Thank you very much. It's very sweet. Is that what you wanted to say, or did you have something else?
That was literally it. That was literally it.
Sorry.
Thank you. Well, I hope you see more of me in the future.
I love how red Isaac is right now.
Yeah.
No, it's so also just really fucking hot in my apartment right now.
Yeah, we know it is. Okay, sorry. Isaac, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So I wanted to speak on a more broader sense of how we got here, and just thinking about, because we've heard it said a lot tonight, like, oh, the sequester community is so diverse, it's so diverse. I don't think it's that diverse. I think it's just more diverse than the communities that we're used to seeing in the OR community and the LRG community. So it's a matter of 4 or 5 minorities instead of just 1 or 2. And that's not enough. So when we're saying we're so diverse, what we're really saying is we're done. we don't need to do anymore. We can stagnate. We can keep things as they are right now.
100%.
And when we look at the communities, like where it came from these reality shows where we are getting that sort of representation, where it's like a throng of white people and then just like sprinklings of like one token each, maybe two, if we're lucky. And so if we want our communities to look more diverse, then we have to be intentional about making sure that we're stepping away from that. Because otherwise what we're doing, if we're not making dedicated spaces for minorities, I'm going to speak specifically for Black people, then we are essentially expecting Black people to insert themselves into white spaces, which, speaking for myself, that's not something that I'm comfortable with as a Black person, to just like jump right into the white pool and hope everyone's cool with me. I love orgs. I love LRG games. But I've only been in one where I didn't ask myself, I wonder how many other Black people there are going to be. And it was a specific all Black cast when that happened. Every other org that I've done, I've said, I wonder how many other Black people are going to be there. And we aren't at a place where we can call ourselves diverse if people are still asking that in every game. In the mini that I played, there were only, I think, 3 Black people, and one of them is CJ, who was an alternate. So there's still plenty of work to be done in terms of intentionality, going back to intentionality, which is why what I'm doing and what Henry and I are doing is creating our own private mini that is all people of color only. We're not, as far as I know, we're not going to be tying any sort of charity thing to it, because I think that if you're going to donate to Black Lives Matter, you should just do that and not
do it on your own volition. Don't do it because you feel pressured. Because if you're doing it because you feel pressured, you don't believe in the movement. You're kind of you don't believe in the movement, and you people.
You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it.
It's for the cloud. Like we've seen so many.
Better. It's not for the cause. And I just wanted to piggyback off of something that Isaac said, which is that you only have, and I hate the argument of like Big Brother reflects America. That's why they can only have 1 to 2 minorities every season. Because I think that there's this kind of white notion of, okay, real diversity is 50% white people, 50% people of color, when true diversity would be like, there's more people of color than there is white people. And a reality show is probably never going to do this. I think it's sad that one of the most reality shows of this decade is Flavor of Love. Like, we couldn't have gotten something a little bit more like dignified or classy or like, anyways. But I feel like we need to understand diversity is not 50-50. Diversity is not any type of ratio. Diversity is when a person of color can come into a space and not feel like Isaac said, like they're taking over white spaces. Like they can go in there and be like, oh, I didn't
This
even
is mine.
factor in. Like I didn't even, 100%.
Another thing I want to speak on is because I also got involved in a thread that popped up after the whole the whole private mini got posted. When a person of color, in this case, when a Black person tells you, hey, this is fucked up, hey, this isn't right, the response should not be, no, it's not. The response should not be, let me save face. The response should not be, leave him alone. It should be, let me shut up and listen to what you have to say so that I can do better. That's it. Just be quiet and listen. And if you can't do that, then you should take down your Black Lives Matter post. You should take down everything, because you're not listening to us. You're speaking over us. And the whole point of Black Lives Matter, which, not the whole point, but a major point of Black Lives Matter is representation and putting Black people in the forefront. So, like, I know it's been said here already, like, take the microphone away from your mouth and put it in the mouth of somebody else and still listen to what they have to say. That action in and of itself is not enough on its own. You also have to sit there and listen and continue to hold it. So on that note, if you are interested in joining the All POC Mini, I've made a post on the Sequester Facebook. I'm also going to post an application on my Twitter, which I will hope will be linked so that I don't have to do that. But I've already in just posting it on my personal Facebook and on the Sequester Mini, I've already gotten people that aren't even involved with Sequester, that love Survivor, that love Big Brother, that want to get involved in this community, but haven't had an in because they would have had to throw themselves in there. So I think if you want your community to look more diverse, then you have to make space. And don't do it because you feel guilty. Don't do it because you like feel shamed. Don't do it because like you feel like it's the right thing to do. Do it because you actually want your community to look diverse. Make that space, make space for people to fill in. And eventually we won't be at a place where people are picking from their friends and it just happens to be 19 white people and one black person. Like eventually we'll have so many people, so many different people in this community that we can scoop a random bunch and every time it will look different, every single time. That's what we should be going for.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, do want to say there are different opinions on this. Phil noted that white guilt is an effective tool to get I'll take dirty money and then I'll still disown you is also like something that people will do. And I ain't mad at it. There are different ways to come at this activism. So what I don't want you to do is watch this and say, well, Pastor Minnie said that you only do this or you have to do that. We are representing our opinions and our experiences. We do not speak for all people of color. We do not speak for all Black people. You know, nobody has signed off on to give us that kind of opinion back there. So I do want to say that I think that, you know, this is the start of a conversation. This is nowhere near the end of a conversation. Sharifa and I, just earlier this week, were talking about how we want to do a woman of color sequester mini too. So I think that there are all sorts of, you know, the private minis can be a very exciting place to bring in our community and make it grow. I don't know if I'm going to ask my friends because they're already like, Suzi, you are a nerd. But I appreciate that I appreciate everybody who's willing to nerd out with their friends and bring them in. And I really think, Isaac, that's an amazing way to kind of say, you know, and I think it's something that you'll see people of color do a lot, and Black people especially say, you know, you don't want to make space for me? I'll make my own damn space. You know, there's this amazing, God, I'm such a nerd. There's this amazing article by Elizabeth Alexander, who was the poet laureate for Obama, and she talks about new Black experimentalism. I'll post that on my Twitter later.
Yeah, you gotta send these articles, girl.
She's like, Black people have been making it new since gumbo. We've been making it new since we quilted this whole country together. It's one of my favorite articles in the world. I love it. And so I think that, you know, I think using these private minis as an opportunity to expand our community is such a cool way. And that's why I wanted Isaac to be here to kind of speak on like how, you know, you see somebody like removing you from an opportunity. That doesn't mean the opportunities, we can't create them together. And I do want our communities to come together and find innovative and exciting ways to make our space. When you saw the Winners at War cast,
that final six was all people of color.
There were so many people of color. There were so many women, and none of that was purposeful. You couldn't come up and be like, well, no winners were this or that. No, we were kicking ass. You know what I mean? We came
our way there too.
I mean, and you saw BB Can versus BBUS. We had amazing representation. Hamza made it to the final too. You know, so like if we have opportunities, we show up and we show out.
Yeah, and we need to keep showing up and showing out too. We need to keep taking space.
Yes, right. So I think there's something really powerful about what Isaac's saying about, you know, if you don't want to give us the space, you can keep it. We'll take it our own way. But I also think that if other people want to go a different way and say, hey, I'm gonna guilt the space out of you. It takes all kinds of ways. We ain't coming to this from one angle. You know what I mean? We're coming on all angles. So I think that this was a good start of the conversation. I know it's midnight and that we've been talking for a while. So I don't want to cut it off because I have like DMs of people being like, I want on now. I have so much to say. And I know you all are amazing, beautiful people who have so much to say. But I do also know that we all have work and education and things to do in the morning. So I do want to say this isn't going to be the last one. So before I bring Sharifa back on, and I will let her, in case she has any questions or comments before we end. Does anyone else have any questions or comments before we start wrapping it up?
I just wanted to just loop it back to sequester, which is what all brought us all together. I just want to remind people that Private Minis brought us one of the most diverse casts, racially, ethnically ever in international, and it's about to bring us Prom, which is going to be a very fun game to watch. Stan,
Be sure to watch.
yeah. I'm excited to watch Geneva. I'm excited to watch Dena. I'm excited to watch a ton of people out there. But we need to remember, this is just one ugly blemish on Private Minis, and Private Minis are kind of it's growing up as a system, and you're going to see kind of like bumps and bruises. I really hope this never happens again. But people need to remember, Suzi was kind of picked up on it a little bit. Of Private Minis are a way to add diverse people into the community, because like Isaac said, and like what but basically everyone said, it's not like a Black person, Asian person, Hispanic person, etc., trying to force themselves into like a white space, because at the end of the day, the majority of people who play sequester are still white people. Private Minis are a way to get people into this community, and for people to understand, look, like, you can try this game out, this game that everyone here loves, and play it kind of without feeling any type of like negative feelings about your own race, your own sexual, et cetera, because you're not going to be like the token, you're not going to be like the token minority, you're not going to be the token woman, you're not going to be et cetera. You're not going to be the only one there. You're not going to be the person that can't relate to anyone. And that's all that I had to say. And I want to pick up on what Debbie said, which is the international had basically no women. And yeah, international, we really needed more women, et cetera. But the difference between international and here is that international was not hand selected in between someone's friends. International was selected based off of who applied. And this is a much worse scenario, because this is basically Lee and kind of Neiko basically saying, we made a mini based off of the VIP people, based off of our friends. And if you're in this, like, why are your friends 19 white people, right? And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Let me just mute myself.
Thank you, Henry, for that. I feel like every time you talk, I have to like contain everything that I want to express. But I just, to close this out, I want to deeply thank everyone who came
Sharifa,
apart.
can I add one piece, actually?
Oh, you don't ask me to do that. You go ahead and do it.
Take your space. Take it up.
Because, as an organizer, one thing for me that really upsets me is the disproportion of donation funds and where they're going to, and what organizations are being amplified and which ones are not, and the ones that are not are Black-led organizations that have their boots on the ground in the States. Like, for me, it's so difficult to see how much people are donating to specifically the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which is all white-led, predominantly white-led, and how much millions of dollars that they've gotten versus other Black-led organizations. And it really, center of it all is based off of the lack of research, based off of looking deeply into, okay, this organization, who is leading it? What is their purpose? What are they trying to complete? People aren't looking at that. People are looking at, okay, I just want to donate. What names are there? Let me just boop, boop, boop. And that is also the problem, because we really have to see where we're putting in the money and what initiatives we're doing in order to get a future that we're trying to make. Because like I said before, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon, and it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of resources, and we need the funds to be going towards the right direction. So that being said, please do your research. Please look into it. And it only takes a few minutes. So please, as you donate, as you do your thing, look deeply into that.
And Muna, just so everyone in the audience can donate, do you have any like links? Do you have any like names of organizations that people can donate to that are Black run, in the ground, like in the ground? Wow, on the ground. Like,
please also tweet them, because that would be great.
After the show, we can because if we had all of these people watching us, then we can, if even like 1% of them donate, that's still like a lot of money, right? So I mean, just drop them here, drop them by name, and then after the show, maybe people can tweet them out.
Yes, Henry, me and some other co-organizers are actually making a list right now of a lot of Black-led organizations and initiatives, and I'll definitely post it on my Twitter, podcast, or whatever we need. I will post it so y'all can have
post it on the Facebook
exactly
group.
The point. So
yeah, please post it anywhere. You're so right in trying to like have the people who are actually helping us in the foreground get this money, because this is how we're going to continue pushing this. This is how we're going to keep this moving. We keep on giving it to these big fundraisers who never really truly are going out there and doing the protesting. Who's truly getting the effect, you know? So thank you for voicing that out. If you can, send your links as much as you can, and everybody continue pushing those links so we can get this money to put the money where our mouth is. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, and also just, if you are in a community where there's a lot of
Black
education programs, like Black education programs, Black after school programs, just also donate to those, because like you want this to be in your community, and you want it to be not like you want it to be for like the protests and all that in your community, but you also need to help educate the next, and help educate the next generation of Black leaders. So make sure to donate to any local education funds, etc. It's just stuff like that, because that's also highly important, and I don't see people bringing that up a lot. And donate to as many places as you can that are like Black led, for Black people, by Black people, for LGBT people, for LGBT POC people, by LGBT, etc. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So yeah.
Thank you all so much for being here, for having this conversation, for being a microphone, and for everyone who's watching, for paying attention. Thank you for that.
Thank you guys.
I want to close out so that you can all follow these fabulous people on their Twitters, on their Instagrams. I want to thank Josh so much for being here. If we want to put his details up there. Josh, is there any closing statements you want to make?
Thank you guys again. As she said, thank you everybody who's watching. You're learning by watching us just speak. And thank you everybody thank you Podquester for allowing a platform for conversations, because conversations allow change, conversations allow growth. And we're going to continue growing as a community. Sequester is a small community right now, but we continue being family members, teaching each other, slapping each other when we're doing bad. We're going to make this family grow up and create a huge legacy, you know? And thank you for that.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, everybody.
Geneva, thank you for everything that you said. And once again, I do want to apologize for anything that I perpetuated in that moment. And I stand with you.
Apology accepted. And I just want to thank you for reaching out to me, you and Suzi, and just Podquester, because I do think it was important for me to express how I felt and have a space to do that. So I really do appreciate you giving me the space and time to speak and talk about what happened. And in addition, I enjoyed communicating and having engaging dialogue with you all. I think I learned a lot as well from this conversation. And I think that we can take a lot of insight from it and use it to advocate for Black lives and other lives in our communities that are marginalized. So I just want to thank you guys for giving this platform and for allowing us to be here to speak on it.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Henry, my king, any last words?
Oh, you make it sound like I'm going up to the guillotine. I thought we were doing.
When are you playing Sequester? That's what I want to know.
Hopefully soon. But I just wanted to say to everyone on this panel, you're all such icons, legends, etc., etc. You guys are great. Muna, you are an inspiration in your community organizing, because that's what I want to get into when I grow up. Geneva, you are an inspiration for my education. Josh, you're an inspiration for when I eventually decide to wear visors. Sharifa, you are an inspiration for when I maybe even do get into podcasting like this. Everyone here is an inspiration. When you thank you for running the POC. You're an inspiration for helping me run the POC mini, which is coming up soon, which hopefully a lot of the people on this podcast will be playing. Come on, some of y'all need to make your returns. Return to the game. And I just wanted to say I'm glad I've been given this platform at such a young age. I really appreciate everyone in this community. And I'm glad that we could come up to a difficult conversation and we were able to handle it with maturity in class, and how it ended with 6 people of color, which is iconic. RHAP could never. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, this is my turn?
Thank you, Henry. Muna?
No, I felt that. Henry, so much love for you. I think the main thing that I just want to say right now is, for me as a Black woman, my time and energy is the most sacred thing to me. If I am specifically spending my time to talk to you about these and have these conversations with you, that means not that I'm trying to make you look like a bad person, not that I'm trying to make you whatever. It's that I'm making space to hold you accountable, but that is a good thing, because what that means is that I believe that we can build together. That means that I believe in you and our growth together. If I'm not talking to you, if I'm ignoring your messages, if I'm not responding back, that means I've given up, and that is the worst thing that can happen. And so, as we continue, please continue in having these conversations. Please continue to have the courage to do so. And when you're having these conversations, I think someone has said it before, but having empathy is a big part of that. It's really about listening more than responding. It's about listening. I'm gonna say that again, listening more than responding. And as we build and as we have these conversations, that's where I feel like change will come. And so that's all I really got to say. Thank you, Suzi and Sharifa, for having me in this podquester. I love the brown girl breakdown. I'm hoping we can have like a little song.
Brown girl breakdown.
I hope this 6 can moving forward. I hope this 6 can become regulars on Brown Girl Breakdown, because this is awesome. This 6 be iconic. All right, that's all I have to say. Iconic.
Okay.
Do we have Isaac's banner available? There it is. Isaac.
That's me. Just to reiterate some points that I made, if we want this community to look more diverse, then we have to actually put in the work to make it diverse, or otherwise it will just start to float towards what Big Brother looks like, which is not what people are wanting based on what I've seen here. There's nobody saying oh, we're diverse enough. People are saying, no, we need to keep this energy going and keep having these conversations. On that note, tell your Black female friends, tell your POC friends about this mini that I'm putting together. Get them into this community. Let's find some more legends like Muna and get them in these games, get them on the actual show, and make this community even more amazing. Let's actively do it. Not just say we want it, but actively do it. Follow me on Twitter. I've got a link on there. Apply if you're a person of color. Tell your person of color friends to apply, especially women. We need a lot more women. We need a lot more females. And follow me on Twitter and Facebook if you want to hear me talk about more of this, because this is pretty much all I do with my free time.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Suzi, if you want to swing in real quick.
Yeah, I'm just backgrounding. Dang it, I don't know what I'm doing, y'all. Dang it.
Listen, it's our first one. We did a good job, all right? We were technically there.
Okay. Wait. Oh, still Isaac. Okay. Hey. Okay. So, and now this is still his banner. Y'all are seeing how the sausage is made. I do want to point out some amazing comments in the background, including Janine is going to name her next daughter after Muna. We are holding her to that. Dan Clark says, Henry, you best go to bed after this stream is over. So I just want to thank our amazing chat for asking hard questions, asking important questions, holding us accountable, and absolutely being obsessed with these amazing sequester people, and for just coming and listening. Yeah, this is just one of my favorite comments ever. Janine Vigilante. This is why I drafted this girl. So I think that we've been so lucky to have our first brown girl breakdown with such fantastic guests. And we had more that we just didn't have time to bring on, but that's okay because we have a lot to talk about. I mean, I saw I haven't watched the 3rd episode of Big Brother Australia, but I saw the results.
No, don't tell me.
We have a lot.
Suzi, no!
Not your girl.
Okay.
Not your girl. Okay, I don't want to spoil too much. I don't want to spoil too much for our fans. Our viewers. I'm not going to say fans. For our viewers. But I will say, I think that we will have a brown girl breakdown about it, because I know we are all breaking down in this world right now, and when we want to go to entertainment, this is not the kind of stuff we want to see. So go ahead.
Oh no, I was just to reiterate everything you're saying, Suzi. Like, I cannot imagine a better start to this series that we've been wanting to plan, and to have this space to be able, like, I'm not used to in my life being able to be in a community that confronts problematic behavior the second that it happens and immediately calls it out and tries to rectify it. And the voices that we were able to put on this podcast to talk are voices that we don't get to hear in other communities. So I'm just beyond grateful for this platform to be in this community. And I just want to thank every single person who is watching, who is involved, who cares, who got mad about what happened, because you should be mad. Thank you for being in this community. Thank you for having me in this community. And I can't wait to chat with all of y'all on our next Brown Girl Breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, and you can catch Sharifa and I tomorrow night on Kirsten's podcast. We will be doing some commentary for the prom mini, and then you can catch Podquester mini. We will be back on Friday for regular commentary on a regular mini. So we will be here. Y'all can't get rid of us. And we are really grateful to the space that TR and Louie made for us. We're grateful to the viewers who have welcomed us so much, to the support, and I think, we felt like we had a place here, but we saw so many positive comments when we came on that we were like, oh shit, maybe other people think we do too. So I think that we were really lucky to have such a great community that we played with, that has welcomed us, and I think we could probably stay in our community for hours, to be frank. But I got to be honest, I am tired.
Oh, no, we're going to bed. But we
don't have Henry's energy. We don't have Henry's energy. He's been on a Zoom call right now.
God, I love Henry. But please, please, please keep this conversation going. Continue to call it out. Let us know when you want to call it out, and we'll call it out with you. And thank you so much for being a part of this with us. And we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, fantastic. Let me see if I can figure out how to do the outro.